Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week of the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to talk about the Fight Pass Invitational 10, some huge matches that happened on that card, plus a bunch of other matches and events that have big announcements. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I entered the show kind of in a funny way this week. An update on Drywall. I'm hoping to be in the new studio by end of March, but we can hope. Until then, again, apologies for any audio issues. I feel like I've been saying that for like 3 months now.
You have.
I've done Drywall for like 18 hours
One
this
day
weekend.
we'll get there.
We're going to be there soon. I'm 40% Drywall. So, big announcements this week. For one, again, as per always in Grappling Rewind fashion, Polaris made an enormous announcement on like Monday night or Tuesday morning. We have a women's squads event coming for the first time, captained by Ffion Davies and Helena Crevar, representing Europe and North America, respectively, for their teams. We don't have any other ladies announced for the event, but
we have one.
Do we now?
Brianna Ste-Marie was for Canada, which I guess is North
America, I guess.
Yeah, it took me a second. I was like, Canada is.
It's like because Crevar is technically North America, but also from Europe too, which I thought was interesting. Again, I am amped, especially with Crevar's performance this weekend that we're going to talk about on the Fight Pass Invitational recap. Versus Maggie Grandotti, like, I am amped. Again, there's not a guarantee that we're going to get a matchup between Ffion and Crevar on this event. Event's happening in June, but it is likely, it would not surprise me for us to see that matchup. That's super exciting. Again, Crevar's breakout year for ADCC took silver the year that Ffion was at CJI competing against Mackenzie Dern. This is a really, really good matchup. I mean, this is a really, really good thing to see. Again, I love seeing Ffion. We didn't get a chance to see her take on Adele Floriano this last week on Fight Pass Invitational because she had that injury to her shoulder. So hopefully Fion's going to heal up. We're going to see her here in June. We're going to see her hopefully before that as well. But very, very happy with this announcement. I am really amped to see the women, the caliber of women that Polaris can pull in. If it's anything like the men's squads events, they're always stacked with really exciting grapplers, and they're really fun events. When we recapped it this last time, we were super happy with all the changes to the format, the new decisions that they have now, they give all the matches weight. Like, I really hope that we see the same thing for the women's squads events, and like, a super amped for it. Showcase the ladies. Any thoughts on that?
No.
Okay. Also in news this week, we're kind of moving in the previews. We could put this in the preview section, but we don't actually have any bracketing for this. Sapatero is having their $100,000 event for men under 160. We have some big names in the bracket, but we actually don't know where it is bracketed out yet. So instead of kicking this to the preview section at the end of the show, just figured we'd talk about it in news. It's on March 15th. I think the pay-per-view is like $25, which is a little expensive, but for $100,000, you got to make your money back a little bit somehow. On the card also we were going through the matchups on the pre-show, the lineup for who is there, and I went, that's a $25 bracket. I'll pay $25 to see that bracket.
And it's a 16-man bracket, so we don't have them all out.
We have 12 with a 16. Yeah. We have Ethan Kronstein, DeAndre Corbray, Pato Diego Oliveira. We have Gavin Corbray, DeAndre's brother. We have Carlos Henrique, Gianni Grippo, Jordan Holy, Max Hansen, Jet Thompson, Julian Espinoza, and Josh Cisneros announced right now. 6 of those guys can take that. It is depending on the bracket, depending on the matchups. 6 of those dudes can take that.
Yeah, and it depends on. I don't remember Sapatero's rules.
Neither do I. I don't remember. Is it maybe ADCC or maybe CJI now? I think it's CJI now.
I think it's ADCC rules.
Is it still ADCC?
I think.
I don't remember. Regardless,
anyway,
$25 pay-per-view. For those, again, these are my people. These are my guys. These are all my guys at my size. So,
I mean, they're my size too at this point. Sorry.
Whatever. Hey, Miranda. Hey. We're both going up weight classes. So this should be super fun. Pato is the front runner here by far, but really a bunch of these guys have had impressive performances recently.
And it really also depends on how people manipulate the rules, depending on what the rule set is.
And really how it's bracketed.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, do we see, like, DeAndre and Gavin first round? Okay, that's a very different bracket than if we get someone like, Julian Espinoza and DeAndre first round versus Ethan and DeAndre or Ethan and Pato. Like, there's so many different ways. I think the bracketing will have a huge determiner for who makes it where. But again, Pato's your big front runner here. I think you can find it through the Sapatero Instagram page. They have links to the pay-per-view. Again, I'm going to buy it. It's worth it. March 15th.
Yeah.
This is a really exciting bracket. So, in other news for big money, anything else on Sapatero, Miranda?
Nope.
Other news for big money, we have your note here. I love your note. UFC putting big dollar sign into BJJ.
Yeah, the rumor is that Dana White said that he's putting 10 to 12 million into jiu-jitsu in the next year. So I'm assuming that means contractual money and
Probably.
not actual money, but who knows? Maybe actual money.
Or like signed. Yeah, we don't really know. You have more details than I had about this.
I only know this because I caught the weird memes that they had of Dana White looking sad and not very excited on the sidelines, and then they're like, the UFC is putting big money into jiu-jitsu, and I was like, that's pretty funny. That's hilarious.
I mean, if you're going to sign guys, look, again, they've been putting on consistent events. They've run 10 Fight Pass Invitational events, and the matchmaking is good for them.
And the thing is, if you at any tournament that you're at, there's like one or two times in that tournament when people are bored as hell.
Yeah.
You can't have every single match be the most exciting.
I coached at Naga this weekend in Baltimore, and I had a moment where I was like, you could see, I was just like sitting, like staring, waiting for my guy to go. And it was like, I probably looked deadpan as shit. Yeah. Just there and looking out onto the mat. It's like, not bad matches, but just waiting for my guy to go.
As a ref, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I always look like, I'm just like, fuck these people.
Yeah, it's just like, it doesn't mean you mean that.
And it's not,
like,
no.
Hey man, my face just looks like that after a 12-hour day sometimes.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
The memes are funny. But again, I'm kind of amped because I've been super happy with the matchmaking we're seeing on Fight Pass Invitational. And again, we're going to go through this entire card today. All of them were interesting in their own respect. The matches weren't barn burners door to door, but they were exciting for reasons or for matchmaking purposes for what they made. So yeah, I'm super happy. 12 million, you can get any grappler in the world with that kind of purse.
In theory, yes.
And I don't think there's a grappler because again, most of these guys, Sapatero Invitationals this weekend. And it's $100,000 bracket. There are 5 brackets ever that have been that much. Maybe less. There's less than 10. Spider, 3 or 4 of the Spiders were that much. Then you had CJI. Yeah. Both divisions were $1 million. And then you've had a whole handful of I think there was another huge one back in the day, and I'm blanking.
Did they actually give the money out though?
A lot of them are pretty. Yeah, a lot of them they do. But again, Sapatero's in very rare form here. That's $100,000 for the winner. If the UFC works on contract, the guys aren't winning purses for most of their things. You're winning hey man, you're out to compete under a contract. These guys are getting paid well in their contract. So most big tournaments, you're winning $5,000. Yeah. For reference, for $12 million or $10 million, you can put essentially the entire roster of jiu-jitsu on contract for pieces of that money. Yeah. If guys that are doing well in tournaments are winning $5 to $10,000 4 to 5 times a year. That's some context for the amount of money that is being put up here. It's a really big deal. Again, our big proponent for this show since we've been running it for the past 8 years has been seeing grapplers get paid, because paid professional grapplers are the people and the athletes that move the sport forward from going from this amateur sport that we have into a more professional sport. Gordon said it years ago. It was I forget exactly what his quote was, but amateurs, you're paying to compete. A professional, you are being paid to be there and paid to compete, and you're being rewarded by your being a prize fighter. Well, this is a step towards that.
And if that takes us into our next announcement, he did make a Instagram post about how CGI could not pay him enough to actually do their tournament.
Oh, you jumped to the top here.
Yeah,
okay.
so Gordon Ryan will not be in CGI 2.
2 teams have been announced for CGI 2. The B team, which we knew that. Yeah. We didn't know that technically, but I don't think there was a shot in hell that the Craig Jones Invitational, the leader of the B team, Craig Jones, the namesake of the tournament, wasn't going to have a team from his organization competing at it. We have Team B team, and there was a post that Craig was basically... What was the caption he had? Systematically mending the fences? Yeah. Or something like that. It was kind of a play on it. It was him and John Onher shaking hands. And the rumor was that, yeah, of course they were going to do this because they're going to get a New Wave team in there, and that looks like it's come to fruition. Yeah. So at least we have a B team and a New Wave team for the quintet version of CJI2 happening in August. I'm amped, man. Both teams can field absolutely world level and are full of and can field world level grapplers. So I'm super excited what the quintet format looks like for these two teams. I think we have is it 8 teams in total or 4 teams?
It says he has 8 teams locked in. As I look at the post of him with a bunch of women in his hotel room.
Never changed, Craig Jones.
It says he's been working, and it talks about 1 team from Europe, 1 from Australia, Asia.
Okay. So
1
world
from
tournament.
New Wave and 3 misfit teams.
That's awesome. I'm super excited.
So,
the team lineups. The first event was awesome. The second event is a different format. Same I loved how they did the first event.
Yeah.
I am fully on board with being super excited for the second event. Again, it's August. It's not real. It's 6 months away.
Yeah.
It's not that far away. We're gonna start to see more and more announcements come up as we move into this feeder cycle, and I'm super excited for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of B team, Jozef Chen got his black belt.
Yes, it did.
Again, huge fan of Jozef Chen. I remember DMing with him back and forth years and years ago because he listened to the show, and we were trying to find Robert Whittaker's trials matches when he was the UFC champion or just had lost the championship.
Yeah.
And Chen is the one who DM'd us. He's like, yeah, I found them. And that was like years when, so what cycle that was for when Whittaker did trials.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 cycles ago. So it's cool to see, to watch him as an athlete.
Then he mentioned you the one time.
And I got super excited. I got excited for it. He's now a black belt. Again, surprise to no one. It's awesome to see him now be a black belt and continue to, just truck a lot of dudes. The next wave of younger competitive black belts are, coming there. It's been awesome to watch these guys grow through the sport from sort of unknown people to being household names in the sport. All of my Chinese students at the gym, at the club, love him. He is their guy. It's awesome because they all just trend they just love him. They love his passing. Anytime he puts out something new, they're all in the gym trying it. It's really cool to see the effect that he has had on those members of the club. So congrats to him. Super awesome to see him get the black belt. Any other news, Miranda?
I don't think so. What was I going to... I looked down at something, and I was going to say something, and I think it was about CGI. Oh, no, it was just that CGI and Karate Combat licensed the pit for grappling, which I think that means you have to pay them now if you use a pit for your grappling event.
I mean, UFC licenses the cage, specifically the 8-sided octagon. You can use other sizes, but if you are going to use an 8-sided octagon, you are required to license their ring from them. And it's not cheap to do, which is why most organizations you see do not use an 8-sided octagon. They use a 6-sided, a 5-sided, a 7-sided. They don't use an 8-sided.
Yeah.
Most of them don't do that.
I don't know if that means that you now have to pay them if you use a pit or not. It would be a smart move, really.
Yeah, it sucks, though. I would love to see it proliferate more, and you putting a license in front
of
that.
It's also a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
You know?
I figure you can probably pay the license fee if you can afford to do a pit, but still, I would love to have it be open.
You would also need a venue that you could keep the pit at, unless you're going to take it down and put it back up every single time you have something there.
Yeah, and also you need a spectator arena above the first row because it is higher than those first row seats.
Around here is Du Burns or somewhere where they play roller derby.
Yeah, when you look down into it.
You need that kind of venue.
So that is the news this week. Let's move right into 15 minutes in, right into the recap of the Fight Pass Invitational 10. Let's go to the main event. Let's kick it off at the beginning. I'm not going to say in surprise to no one because the finish was pretty wild. Victor Hugo submitted Nicky Rodriguez via rear naked choke in overtime. You have a piece to go?
No, go.
We previewed this. We looked at the first 3 times these guys have met. So, Matt, Victor Hugo's beat Nick Rodriguez 3 times. Similar ways in all of the times. The matches look pretty similar. Rodriguez looking to pass, sometimes having success passing, but never really being able to get much going, and then late throwing a footlock.
Yeah. He didn't try to throw a footlock at all.
No.
I saw no footlocks.
This match looked exactly the same in overtime.
Yep.
And then you picked on something picked up something that was interesting to me when you were talking about Victor Hugo towards the end of overtime, like where he was going and like kind of the thought process for how he was looking at the match or what you saw him doing.
Well, he kind of just didn't fight the pass. He kind of chilled. Like he wasn't putting the same gas into at the beginning, Nicky passing. He wasn't really afraid if Nicky passed him because he knew he could like just bench press himself back to
like
a guard.
He's done in multiple matches. And in this match he did the same thing.
And so there's a point at which he passes Nicky passes Victor, but you don't see Victor get like upset over it.
He doesn't also
he doesn't
Nicky
panic.
Rodriguez is never able to flatten Victor Hugo's shoulders down to the mat.
He's also 270 pounds.
Yeah, Rodriguez is 234 and Hugo is 270. And this will come up later.
You can tell when you see it.
Yeah. Victor Hugo is by far the 35-pound bigger guy.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you're big. You're a bigger guy than Rodriguez by like a noticeable amount when you guys tie up. It is interesting. I didn't really realize how much bigger Victor Hugo was. We knew he was bigger, but Hugo plays a long, tall man guard from the game.
But I think also Nicky Rod has thinned out. He might weigh the same, but he looks thinner nowadays than he did before.
Yeah, he looks. Yeah,
he's not as fluffy as he used to be. He used to be a little more like bodybuilding fluffy.
Yeah,
you know, and now he's more of like a cut.
He looks like an athlete.
Like a swimmer. He has like the swimmer build that he's kind of has rather
you can tell
than
he's
like
really muscular, but it's less aesthetic muscles and more like, oh, you're moving into like a functional strength that you're like, there's less of the big lats and like the things he had when in like 2019 when he looked like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
So Victor Hugo kind of hangs out. And it was like, okay, he's playing knee shield. He's kind of pushed Rodriguez off enough. Rodriguez is never able to flatten Hugo down.
And he's just making sure, basically, that Nicky can't get his hands together and lock his hands on him. Because he knows that's kind of...
He lets him lock his hands, but he keeps the knee shield in once he puts him back in. And then he kind of plays hands out, where it's like Rodriguez can never get close enough to him to collapse his shoulders down flat to finish him passing and start to like go to mount or go to the back. He's always fighting Victor Hugo facing him. Yeah. And so it just kind of turns into a null position.
Yeah, I mean, he does pass Victor.
Yeah, no, cleanly. Yeah. But again, in the no-point section.
Yeah.
And then they go to overtime. And I was like, okay, this is the fourth time these guys have met. This match has kind of looked like this the last four times, with Victor Hugo looking similar, fine guard. Yeah. Nicky Rod looking similar. It was odd that Victor Hugo kind of decided to just, I'll just wait the last minute and a half out. It seemed like, defending.
But it was the smart move.
He's like, hey, I'm going to have to play Rodriguez to overtime. Yeah. I'm going to have to outpoint him. That's kind of what we thought was going to happen anyway. And I was like, okay, so tactically, and strategically, what Victor Hugo is doing here makes sense. Rodriguez is going to have to turn on the gas, really look to settle him. And it looked like both guys were sort of not wanting to expend too much energy in that last minute and a half of regulation, but Hugo willing to kind of concede a worse position to kind of wait it out.
Which makes sense.
Then overtime happens.
Yes, it does.
And suddenly Victor Hugo is going to wrestle Nick Rodriguez. And I did not have that in my bingo card.
I did not either.
I also did not have Victor Hugo hits an Uchimata on Nick Rodriguez. Nick Rodriguez, what I thought initially had slipped, we rewatched it and you're like, no, man, that's not a slip. Victor Hugo gets him down, and then Rodriguez gets to his knees and looks to drive through for like a knee pick.
And I think part of it was, I think Victor Hugo had an overhook, right?
Yeah.
So, and he pulled the overhook up as Nicky Rod was trying to wrestle into him to take him down. And Nick Rodriguez just kind of fell over because he had a 270-pound man picking your shoulders up and pushing into you.
But the other thing is Victor Hugo's driving forward, and we talked about it. Victor Hugo has some interesting proportions. Yeah. As a 270-er, most guys that are that big hold a lot of it in their gut. They're usually they don't have the same stature that Victor Hugo has. Victor Hugo is really heavy in the shoulders and chest.
He looks like the bodybuilding lobster from
Larry the Lobster from SpongeBob.
Yep, that's who he looks like.
A little bit. He's very top heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
And when he goes to knock Nick Rodriguez down, Nick Rodriguez normally gets his legs behind, ankle picks or double legs through this. But Victor Hugo is so big over top of his shoulders.
And he pays attention to that shoulder, keeping the shoulder up so that he can't really, so that he's already off balance as he tries to ram into him.
He gets over top of Rodriguez, and Rodriguez suddenly goes, oh shit, this guy's more over top of me than most people, because most people, it's gut, and so it's in your face.
Yeah, and
Hugo, it's above your head.
And the other thing
the weight is.
Because of him wanting to wrestle out of that position, it's not like Nicky tries to get a guard established when he gets there. Yeah, because like,
I'm going to take you down, I'm going to get on top here.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Hugo is over top, and where most guys of that size are in front of Rodriguez, where Rodriguez can come up and drive through off the knees. Yeah. Hugo is over top of him and has that shoulder lift, and you're like, and you watch, there's another angle that we saw, that's not the main angle, that you see Rodriguez's face go, oh shit.
Yeah, you
when
see
he doesn't get it going.
You see the oh shit look, and you're like, oh, that's not a good
It says it all. It's like, oh, that was not the sequence. Nobody expected Victor Hugo to like try to wrestle, better yet, have success, because we've seen Nick Rodriguez, like, what we've always been surprised about is how much he is able to out wrestle people. It's like, man, like, it should be close. And then you watch Nick Rodriguez out wrestle a guy, and you're like, okay, it's probably not that close. He really is an underratedly good wrestler, especially for jiu-jitsu. And then you see his face when Victor Hugo like gets the better of the sequence, like, oh shit. Victor Hugo comes, immediately gets over, gets the back, locks the rear naked choke, and he's able, because he's super flexible, get the hooks in, but also trap Nick Rodriguez's arm in the process while he's taking his back. So Nick Rodriguez's arm is completely below like almost the hip line. Yeah. And he's fighting a 2-on-1 with Victor Hugo, and that's all she wrote. Rear naked choke, win in overtime. But the sequence, like, it's so interesting to me, because there is not a dude in the sport that has Nick Rodriguez's number like this. Yeah. Maybe Gordon, but we've only seen him go against each other once.
And this makes
twice?
me wonder what Kynan is going to do
versus a guy like Rodriguez.
Kynan's going against Rodriguez.
Who's number one
in a couple weeks?
Yeah, you're right.
So like,
can Kynan replicate that performance though? Because Kynan has 2 wins over Nick Rodriguez as well. One at ADCC, I think, was it points? And then the fight to win match, which was the heel hook, which in Philly a couple weeks, 2 weeks after ADCC 2019.
But
it is really interesting. Like, what's Rodriguez going to look like going into that rematch with this again? Who beats Nick Rodriguez? Gordon, Victor Hugo, Kynan.
Yeah.
Pretty small list. Like, doesn't consistently get beat by a lot of guys. That's it. And so it'll be interesting to watch Rodriguez go immediately from Victor Hugo, a guy now he's not 4-0 against, or 0-4 against, where it's like Victor Hugo, and now the last match getting submitted, which hasn't happened in any of their matches before.
No.
Having this performance.
He hasn't been submitted in a long time.
I'm trying to think. I think Gordon was the last guy that I can remember to sub him when he put on the long sleeve rash guard at ADCC 2022. Yeah. And then heel hooked him. And that, I think, I could be wrong. I remember he was in a deep rear naked choke at CJ at one of the EBIs he did. He got out of that fine. Yeah. Like, it is just really interesting when you have a guy that is so good like Nick Rodriguez that has a style matchup in a guy like Victor Hugo and unable to win. And Hugo, in an interesting change of events, went, cool, what I had been doing has been working to beat him in other rule sets. Yeah. I am now going to completely kind of flip the script and then out-wrestle him. Yeah. It was just, none of us expected that. Because, again, we've seen this exact match, 3 separate times. That has never been the case. So, again, I assume these guys are still both young enough. I assume we're going to see them go against each other again. Oh, yeah. I don't know what Nick Rodriguez would need to do to change to beat Victor Hugo here. It's. I'm not saying it's an unwinnable matchup, but man, it's a bad style matchup for him.
Yeah, I think he has to change his passing. He has to create. He has to think of and I don't know what passing style to go into.
I think the only thing you could do with Victor Hugo is bylock him. Like, I think it's the only passing style that he could maybe cartwheel, but again, you're trying to win, you're trying to beat him in a scramble. Maybe you can out wrestle Victor Hugo if you're expecting it. Yeah. Like, I think that's an avenue to win, but it's also Victor Hugo's also 35 pounds bigger than him.
But the other thing is I say this to a lot of people, the body out pass works when you're stronger and bigger than the person you're going against.
Which in this
body
case,
lock passing does not work as well when they are bigger than you or stronger.
Yeah.
Or as strong as you.
Yeah.
It is a strong man pass.
It's a parity pass.
Yeah.
And if you have parity with someone, they're extreme.
And he does use it. And he does use it against Victor Hugo, and he does get somewhere. But he doesn't get anything with it.
Yeah.
It's
kind of like you get there and then it doesn't really mean anything.
Well, and he doesn't stay there. It's not like he gets there and then sits and
he can't establish anything after doing it, which kind of makes it in most rule sets nowadays that these guys are competing in. That is sort of the criteria. Like these guys aren't really doing an IBJJF versus each other.
Yeah.
It's just not. Why would they go compete for free when they can get paid main event money from Fight Pass? We just talked about the money Fight Pass is putting in. I hope both these guys got compensated very well for this performance. Especially for Rodriguez taking a matchup you're 0-3 against.
Yeah.
Victor Hugo has nothing to win here because he's already beat the guy 3 times. Like this is a matchup that you make with money, and I appreciate that because it's interesting. But it's Victor Hugo just has to keep doing what he does, and he beats Nick Rodriguez. Nick Rodriguez will have to drastically make a change to his game, and that's just not something we've seen him do rapidly in the last 2 to 3 years. 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. We haven't really seen him make drastic changes to a game since ADCC 2022. So again, he's still young enough; he absolutely could do it, but a wildly unexpected result for me, at least. Like I didn't have Victor Hugo Uchimata's Nick Rodriguez into a back take rear naked choke. Like, wait, he beats him in a scramble?
Yeah.
Which Victor Hugo is a really good scrambler. Like some of his big notable wins are off of scrambles, like into leg locks. Like, but I just didn't expect him to out scramble Nick Rodriguez.
No, I didn't.
Like, what the hell? So amazing performance from Victor Hugo. Just there's not much. Again, 3 dudes can beat Nick Rodriguez, and Victor Hugo is the only dude to ever do it 4 times.
Yep.
Crazy. Let's see. Next one, we got Renato Canuto, defeating Oliver Taza by points in overtime. I'm not going to say that we called it, Miranda. This matchup looked like their 2019 matchup all over again with I think, some refinement from both guys. We saw Oliver Taza, I think, have better leg entries than he had in 2019.
Well, and I think both gentlemen have refined their abilities.
Yeah.
So they don't take the stupid risks that they may have when they were younger.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the best way to
put it. They're playing a more like educated game, but they're definitely playing the same game as they did before.
Yeah. And that game has Canuto winning by points.
And then
which
Canuto said he was hurt. He did this match and he was injured, and that's why he wasn't doing anything crazy. Like, he didn't do anything flying this time.
No.
And he also said that he's, I think, taking an MMA fight. I think he's going.
I mean, his wife, Raquel, has a bunch of MMA fights. I watched her fight in Invicta. I watched her fight. Yeah. I mean, I think I've seen all of her fights.
I think Renato is going into, I think he said Tough Enough, which I didn't even know if that
really. They're still around?
Yeah, I thought that's what he said, but I could be completely wrong with that. He said something, and it was one of the older ones, and I was like, huh?
Tough Enough is still.
Was it Tough Enough? I don't know.
Or was
it was something that sounded
King
like
of the Cage?
No, it wasn't King of the Cage because they're kind of sort of local to us.
Well, they're California. They were a California regional for years.
Yeah, but they used to do like Pittsburgh or like
they
Philly
did
or
Pittsburgh
one of those.
shows.
But he definitely said he was going to take a fight soon. So
good for him. Again, I don't want to see him go to MMA. I mean, ONE FC.
Yeah,
he would be interesting. Him and Kate would be fun. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, but
yeah, why not?
Similar style.
Yeah.
Again, this is a really interesting back and forth. You should watch this match. It looks like a refinement of their 2019 match. It really just looks Oliver Taza being almost what I would say frustratingly unwilling to play from top for prolonged periods. Taza gets the leg entry that he wants on top, and he sits back for it. And Canuto knows that Taza is going to fall back into the leg position, anticipates it, gets in front, starts clearing hooks, starts getting in front, starts setting up his passes, and then as he's setting up a counter to Taza sitting back, Taza has to start abandoning the leg position in order to maintain and keep in front of Canuto's passing.
Yep.
And that's really what it is.
Tough Enough. MMA debut.
Okay, so it is Tough Enough.
Yep.
It's on Fight Pass too, so you can watch it on Fight Pass.
Yeah.
April 25th, Rodriguez versus Serbi is the main event. Tough Enough 143, celebrating 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years.
Which is crazy. Tough Enough's been around for a long time.
I know. They have been going on for a long time.
So, yeah. I mean, do you have any other thoughts on the Canuto versus Taza match? Like, it really... I'm continued in matches like this. I'm continually frustrated by Taza's unwillingness to play top. Like, because he's not. Taza can play top. We've seen him do it, but he will always fall back for the leg.
And he has very good passing.
He does.
Yeah.
Taza's good. I mean, Taza's a world level guy for a reason.
I always go back to the fact that I did a seminar once with Taza that lasted 4 hours. At 4 hours, I left because my brain could not take anymore.
Yeah.
He continued to teach for, I believe, a very long time. So he's the type of personality that when he gets an idea of what he wants to do, he definitely does all of it.
Which will get you up to this level and beat most of the guys. But again, with a guy like Canuto, he knows where Taza's going to fall back, and you can see that every time that Taza falls back for the leg. I think it's like 3 or 4 times in this match.
Yeah.
Taza will get the top. He'll put Canuto down. He'll sweep Canuto with a butterfly sweep or something, and then he will start to play from top. Canuto will start setting up a guard, start to turn, and then Taza will get a leg position, and he'll sit back for that essentially outside heel hook, and then he'll try to turn it into the knee bar to the side, to the lateral knee bar. Canuto will turn, tech up, turn out, and the exact same thing that we've seen from Taza for 6 years now, and the exact same identification and passing that we've seen from Canuto for 7 or 8 years now. It was a bit of a, honestly, it was a fun back and forth match technically. I'm not getting into any of the technical details here, but it was frustrating for me that Oliver Taza didn't change his game at all and lost the exact same way. Yeah. And in the 7 years since their last match, 6 years since their last match. No. 25. Yeah, six years. No idea. It was in 2019.
I don't do math.
Since their last match, didn't make any changes to put Canuto in any additional trouble. Yeah. When there was points where it's like, I feel like he could have passed. I feel like he could have settled him. I feel like he could have hunted for the back. He could have done other stuff versus Canuto when he got top position because he was unwillingly sweeping Canuto. I think 2 of them were like Canuto not trying to get swept here and then just not making the change to start dominating in top position and fall back for a leg again. It was a bit frustrating, but again, Taza can beat most guys like this, but he can't beat Canuto like this. So I got nothing else on that. Let's move on to Brianna Ste-Marie versus Elisabeth Clay. This is a rubber match, actually. No, sorry. Yeah. Rubber match at black belt. These women have been against each other before at the colored belts, but at black belt right now, Elisabeth Clay has a win over Brianna Ste-Marie. Decision or points, I think.
Something like that.
At IBJJF. And who's number one?
Who's number one?
Decision or who's number one. And then Brianna Ste-Marie at 2024 IBJJF Worlds has a win over Elisabeth Clay with rear naked choke.
Yep. In absolute.
Was this match 4 minutes?
No, it was 6.
No, I'm saying, how long was the match? Actually,
probably 4 minutes.
Yeah. Wasn't super long.
No.
Brianna Ste-Marie, Von Flue chokes Elisabeth Clay from kind of a top quarter guard position.
She said it's like a position she does a lot. Yeah. Their arm is blocked, so they can't really do anything about it.
You picked this up. This was the same. So initially, Elisabeth Clay pulls, and then she starts going for, there's an inverted knee bar that Elisabeth Clay has been doing since blue belt. Yeah. And she got DQ'd at purple belt in IBJJF a couple of times because she used it as a sweep. Elisabeth Clay is probably, or was at one point, the best in the world at this particular knee bar sweep. I love this knee bar sweep. Before my back was broken, I used it a ton. And now I use the same sweep from a different position, but it's a phenomenal sweep. You get behind, you lift your hips up, you push them over. Yeah. The problem with this sweep is, especially at the higher levels, is if you get someone that's also strong and can get in front of you on the sweep, and specifically the exact defense that Brianna Ste-Marie does, or offense that she does, is you hook over the head, and then essentially what needs to happen is if you can't get your shoulders far enough over Elisabeth Clay's back here, Elisabeth Clay, it's like, cool, it doesn't matter, can push you away with all the muscles in their legs and back and invert and roll through and get a knee bar.
Yeah.
And you're left defending this knee bar that turns into a heel hook or an inside or outside heel hook, depending on which way you roll. But if you do what Brianna Ste-Marie does here and get in front of it enough, and you're able to get your shoulders over the back of Elisabeth Clay, well, suddenly what previously she has your leg in this knee bar, well, now she's overextended. She doesn't have the muscles to pull you back in, and she doesn't have the leg strength to be able to push you over, because what happens is when they have this overhook grip on the head, you now kick yourself into a pass. You basically end up kicking out when you're trying to knee bar them. Your hands can't hold them into you anymore. Your hips can't get them up anymore, and people end up passing. Now, she does a great job here, and she retains a quarter guard. But that's kind of seemingly because it looked like Brianna Ste-Marie wanted that quarter guard on top. And then because Brianna's head is so high over essentially the guillotine grip rollover that Clay's trying to do, Clay gets her hand stuck. Clay gets her shoulder stuck because she can't bring it any higher to get out of Brianna Ste-Marie's head and off the back of her neck. And you end up in this top semi-mounted version of a Von Flue that is like a counter to an offense. And that's the sequence.
And you can't really get out of the Von Flue.
No, like that's the nature of the Von Flue.
Your hand is stuck, and you can't, like, normally a Von Flue is a reaction to you holding maybe a guillotine for too long. Somebody Von Flues you, and you can let go of it because you have that ability. In this situation, you don't really have the ability to not get Von Flued. You're kind of stuck in that position. Causing her to actually tap twice, because she tapped the first time.
She kind of like taps a little bit.
She did like the Brazilian the first time. And then
it was kind of like, it was just a light. It wasn't like really Brazilian, because Brazilian would be like tap, and then I didn't tap. But Clay was like, it was like just a light tap. And then you can hear Adele yelling in the corner that she tapped. And then Clay goes, oh yeah, and then taps some more because she's in this choke more. Brianna Ste-Marie has a number. Interesting enough, what you picked up and I picked up on, Brianna Ste-Marie has gotten bigger. She is way beefier in the shoulders, in the lats. I think all the lifting that she's doing with Adele looks like it is very quickly. She did not look like an undersized 45er in this match.
She looked bigger than Elisabeth Clay.
Which is crazy. Again, Clay has also slimmed down a ton in the past 6 years. But to basically look like the bigger person in this matchup with Clay is crazy to me. And a really, really neat choke. Really neat finish. This is the choke I hate the most, because I've been hit with this, not usually with the Von Flue, but the head and arm. I'll get passed over like this because I go for that knee bar a lot. And guys will go over the head and arm.
It's also, I think, a flexibility thing, because if you can twerk your hip knee so that you can get behind them, I think you have to have a certain amount of flexibility, or at least escape your leg enough that you can actually do that. Because I go behind people like that, and I find that it's mostly me just being more flexible with my legs, because I can kind of whip behind people and then be like, ha ha ha. But I always just try to darce people. I'm like, I'm going to try to darce you as you take my leg. It's a really good, it's a position you picked up on. Brianna uses this position as a passing spot a lot. I'm curious if she's going to become even more successful with it, having put on some size and be able to kind of push down into people, because it is a really interesting wrinkle to see Brianna continue to use in her game, and now get a Von Flue choke with it, which is such an uncommon choke from this position. Super uncommon. It's uncommon to begin with. It doesn't happen very much in jiu-jitsu competitions.
This is almost closer to a head and arm choke. Like a arm triangle choke. Than like a Von Flue. I mean, it is definitely a Von Flue because of where Elisabeth Clay has her hand trapped, but the setup for it is not something you usually use for a Von Flue. It's much more like what you'd use for just a mounted head and arm. Which is very popular nowadays.
Like a Gianni Grippo. Like head and arm.
Dude, him apologizing to everyone for doing that. He goes, that's terrible. I've done it for everyone for years. Sorry, guys. I'm not going to stop, but it's still terrible. I was like, that was Gianni Grippo was low-key really funny, but he's very dry.
Are you talking about on the Simple Man podcast?
No, he was in the car. He was in the car talking about apologizing for that, having done the drill.
He's on an episode of the Simple Man podcast, and he's pretty hilarious.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, he goes into all kinds of crazy, weird. because he used to be at Henzo's back in the day.
Yeah, because he got everything till brown at Henzo's.
Yeah.
And then Marcelo, he gets some black belt. But I think he moved over to Marcelo's at brown.
Yeah.
I think
but he tells
I think it was brown.
He tells a lot of like the stories of back
the old school Henzo stories.
Yeah, and all kinds of other shit. Like, I guess it was a seedy neighborhood that gym was in for a while.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So again, a really cool choke. Yeah. Really, really unorthodox finish. Again, which is why I'm happy UFC is putting more money, because these are two high-level women that they're getting. Hopefully we see them competing back on Fight Pass frequently. Next matchup, the who is better than Jay Rodriguez matchup. Ronaldo Jr. defeats Felipe Costa by 2 points in overtime. But that really doesn't tell the whole story of this match. A lot of protracted periods of wrestling with Ronaldo getting the better of the wrestling generally, which is expected. We saw him wrestle with Jay Rodriguez. We've seen him wrestle with a lot of guys over the years.
We saw him put somebody through a TV. We've seen
Garmo through a TV. Yeah. We've seen him wrestle Cody Steele. I think, or different. I always mix this matchup. I always forget who Cody Steele has been against on Fight Pass Invitational.
I don't think he's gone against Cody Steele.
And for some reason...
No, because whoever he went against tried to... Wasn't it Micah Galval? Because he was trying to suplex him. And it was the suplexy versus the they were trying to like out-suplex each other. And they just kept on suplexing each other.
That was J-Rod. Who's number one? Was Mickey Galval in that.
But I thought Cody Steele did one of those too, but I could be wrong.
Versus Mickey Galval, yes, he did. Regardless, I don't remember... I don't have no idea.
Because Ronaldo's a little bit bigger.
Yeah. I don't know where I was going with this. Moving back to the match. If you want to know... two things here.
Ronaldo Jr. likes the front headlock.
Okay, second thing.
And Felipe Costa will take his head like being ripped off many, many times. Like you can tell that...
I had two different points.
You can tell... You can tell that he has done jiu-jitsu starting as a child and got messed up by every adult in the room for his because he ate.
Just not gonna tap to it.
He ate some freaking guillotines and some headlocks. That I was like, Jesus Christ, your neck your neck is gonna be messed up.
One thing I appreciated about this, so Ronaldo Jr.
It's funny that I had two different points than you.
Yeah, but like they're better points than I had. He is weirdly long. He can lock up these anacondas and darces. Like most people to lock up a darce or an anaconda, again, unless you're guys like Tyra Tola, David Tola, guys that are specifically long, you have to make an odd angle. You have to dip your shoulder down to be able to daylight your arm across their body to get it up above the neck or under the armpit for the anaconda or for the darce above the neck. Ronaldo Jr. doesn't have to do that.
No.
He can do it from a front headlock, like from a chest to back, straight, like essentially... like wrestler, not referee's position, but like top turtle position. He can do it from there, which is really interesting. He has a really interesting sit-through guillotine he'll do here with the arm in. They kept calling it a power guillotine. It's just an arm in guillotine.
Yeah.
For the Felipe Costa, consistently just defending, especially late as the match goes later and later and later. This is just Felipe Costa going, if I can keep moving and I can get my back flat to the mat, I'm going to make Ronaldo have to adjust and have to roll through with me.
And I'm thinking maybe it was also like if I can get Ronaldo to burn his arms out.
It was.
But I don't know if Ronaldo's arms burn out.
They didn't look like they were going to. But again, very competitive match early. And then just later in the match, Ronaldo just goes through two different arm and guillotine sequences that he sets up the same way. He has a sit through, like a sit back, the way that Tynan did a couple of weeks ago. I have like 3 students that are trying to do that Tynan guillotine now, where they sit back and sit through. And I got one of them that's getting good at it, and I'm like, oh, this is about to be a problem. Ronaldo does the same thing there, where that same side turtle where you sit back through onto it.
Yeah.
He has 2 darces. He has a couple of anacondas here. Interesting enough, Ronaldo uses the anaconda more than most people I ever see. And I'm curious if that's because he's really long or if he likes it. But he seems to he will switch from the darce to the anaconda preferentially, where typically in my experience, most people will switch from the anaconda to the darce, or they'll never switch the anaconda at all. It's a really interesting. I don't know if it's a build thing or why he does that.
I always found that if like guys who wrestled when they were younger, like straight out wrestled, like they always picked up anacondas really quickly.
They always like that underhook on their arm on the
something. Yeah, it's something that they do that's very similar, except they can't like choke from that position.
Right.
But for
lock.
whatever reason, whatever they do, they translate that ability to
the anaconda more than the darce. Yeah.
Because and they pick it up so freaking fast, and it's like one of those that you're like, fuck, I shouldn't have taught you that. Why did I teach you this move?
It is usually wrestlers, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I had a wrestler this weekend finish like a north-south on a guy, because I taught him a north-south, I think last semester. I taught him a north-south. He's like, should I do this? And I spent a bunch of time with him working the north-south. And I was like, it's niche, you may not use it, you may not use it. And then Marcelo used it, and he was like, I'm going to go for that more. I was like, you should do that. Yeah. And he finished one guy this weekend with it. I was like, that was a good north-south choke. Yeah. I'm regretting now that I've taught you this, because I know that in the room, he also, my student went against
Andrew Kochel.
Andrew Kochel, and then he beat Cockle.
Or Cockle.
Cockle, and then he also went against UFC guy. It wasn't UFC. Alexander Romanov.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the finals of the cash prize division at Naga. Dude had a crazy run. And then my student also did 3 other divisions. He did his Nogi division. He did the absolute Nogi.
That's youth.
He did his gi. He did absolute Nogi. He just did all of these divisions.
That is youth.
That is youth. He hit a bunch of chokes, and it was I was going somewhere with, shouldn't have taught him a couple of front headlocks that I did, because I'm about to just get murdered in the room by this kid that I've taught a bunch of front headlock chokes to.
Yeah, probably.
And I got him as a purple belt, so not taking nothing away from his previous coaches and stuff. But I like the front headlocks, and I've taught him that. Now watching Ronaldo Jr. wrestle and then do that, and then my student do this, I'm I'm in for it this week. I know it.
Yeah, don't teach him the thing we were talking about last week with Jimenez, that you lock the darts before you take their back. I started doing that. That freaking is horrendous to the person you're doing it to. It's wonderful, but horrendous.
I kind of want to teach it, because I'm just hey man, if you can get it on me, go for it.
Yeah.
My competing days are winding down. I want to see you be really good.
But I think you should hit it on them for a little bit before you teach them.
Yeah.
They're
smart, and they'll pick it up quick.
You have to get a little bit of,
get a little bit back. Of fun. Get a couple before I start losing to it.
And then you're like, remember that thing I did to you? I'm going to teach you it now.
This is, again, Ronaldo Jr. very much in the driver's seat in the later ends of the match, winning on 2 points, but very close to submitting Felipe Costa numerous times, with Felipe Costa just being super tough, doing the right things, defensively sound. This is a great match to watch for defenses and where to roll, how to turn. You do have to eat some of these chokes to defend him right.
Yeah.
And Felipe Costa, but he's usually not, to his credit, just eating it. There's one darce or one anaconda that he's
There's
eating.
One where I watch his neck.
You're
and
just
you watch
okay,
the neck and you're
that hard.
but besides that.
But he's not doing the thing, what I appreciate about him here, he's not doing the thing that I hate the most, which is just a guy not doing anything and eating it and hoping that he can get out.
Yeah.
He's doing something. Like J-Rod. I don't really have a problem with the way, J-Rod is in some nasty subs. But what he never does is he's never static. And him and his brother talk about this before when they defend stuff. It's I'm never defending it statically. Yeah. I'm always moving and angling and angling and angling. I was thinking about that as I defend, and I've incorporated more of that into my game of and you watch the world level guys, the guys that are actually getting out of stuff are the ones that are doing it dynamically.
Yeah.
The thing I hate the most, I hate 2 things the most. At big world level competition, super fights of this caliber, is when a guy hover hands. It's hey man, you're a world level guy. Either tap or defend.
Yeah.
Don't give me the half hand wanting to tap, because at this level, that doesn't the coach is gonna see it, and the guy's gonna level into whatever he has and either hurt you or get the finish in a different way. Yeah. You're never gonna get out after you hover hand at a high level. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then the guys that just will let their shit get crunched, where it's dude, you're just eating it, hoping they can't break you enough to make you quit. I hate that. I hate seeing that. Felipe Costa, to his credit, there's only once where he does that a little bit.
Yeah.
That every other defense that he's doing, he's consistently.
Well, and I
his hips and
think
out.
the one that looks really bad is also at the very end of the match. And
it was like 30 or 40 seconds left.
It was more, more of a, I just need to survive.
Yeah.
It was
It was like, I can get out of this long, and I can get through this long enough to make it to the end and not tap.
I think if there was more time on the match, he would have tapped.
Maybe And Renato just kind of goes, I'm just going to hold this here. Yeah. I'm going to look to finish if I can, but I'm not going to overextend with the match in the bag up on points. Yeah. Which, again, tactically it was great. Would have loved to see a little more activity from the wrestling for some pieces, but the groundwork, again, I really enjoy Ronaldo Jr.'s ability to cycle through. Again, it's an attribute-based game. You kind of need the build that he has to be able to pull it off. But when you see a guy do it, it's really interesting to watch. And, Felipe Costa is no joke. 3rd place, ADCC, 88 kilograms.
Yep.
Like, I expect us to receive Ronaldo at ADCC this coming year. Or on Team Athos for CGI. Like, I expect him in those.
He should do Brazilian trials.
I would love to see him do Brazilian trials.
You would think so.
I would love to see him do that because, again, with these performances...
Or South American trials.
It's Brazilian trials. Let's stop playing pretend. They're both in Brazil. They've both been in Brazil.
They're both in Brazil like 2 weeks apart.
Yep. And 99% of the guys that win those are Brazilian.
Yeah.
95.
Most.
Statistically most. Probably 95.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about a match where somebody kind of took a little damage that they didn't need to.
Andy Murasaki submits Daniel Sattler. I'll get his name right eventually.
Sattler.
It's listed as Kneebar in overtime. This was a heel hook. This was like a lateral outside heel hook, belly up heel hook actually, the finish is really neat. It's essentially it's kind of like a backside 50-50 heel hook that you do from the upper knee bar position when you're knee barring up.
Yeah.
I love this heel hook. I hit this heel hook I go to this heel hook in the room a lot.
Yeah.
I rarely finish it because in the room, I don't like that typically...
the position you land in, you kind of break the person if you get it.
No, I don't like that in the room... they're facing the other direction and have to tap behind them. So in the room, I'll usually switch just to the knee bar and it's fine. But the heel hook is great. And with the higher level guys in the room, you can go to I feel more comfortable going to this. But the guys that are like blue, even some of the brown belts, going to this particular heel hook is I'll usually let it go because the knee bar will pop right into your arms here and it's fine. But the heel hook is a phenomenal tool here. The setup is really interesting. This was the whole match. I want to talk about the whole match in context.
Yeah.
These guys were training partners, so some context. Training partners for years at Athos when Andy was a black belt and Daniel Sattler was a colored belt. Up through the belts, they trained together for years. Andy Murasaki in the post-fight talked about they lived together for like a year and a half in Athos Fighter House. And then it seemed like Daniel Sattler was mad at Andy Murasaki this entire match.
I feel like he's mad at everyone.
It was a weird match. It was especially weird after Andy submits him.
He also did the head thing that the Riatolos do to people, but he did it with a different sort of tone. They do they grab your head to make you so you can't figure out what you're doing wrestling. They grab the back of your head and kind of pull your head forward.
Yes.
He did that, but he did it with a menace in his. I can't explain it.
It's really, but it's one of those things you know it when you see it.
It was he was
weird about that.
It was he was almost hitting him as he was doing it. There was a couple times where it looked like he was actually hitting him.
Yeah.
Which I mean is heavy collar ties is a part of jiu-jitsu.
It is. I like that we're seeing actual it uses collar ties nowadays. But the pacing was odd. Daniel was again doing well, but Andy Murasaki was 1 to 2 steps ahead of Daniel in most of these sequences. His inversions into the legs were beautiful. His guard work through to take Daniel's legs was over and over and over entries into the legs.
Random side note. What was also kind of funny was when they did the little pre-fight interviews, both gentlemen chose to do it in Portuguese. They had really both of them in Portuguese with subtitles. And I was like, dude, both these guys I've never seen speak Portuguese in my life. I was like, why? Why are we all of a sudden?
Hey, go for it, man.
Yeah. But they were trying to sell the Portuguese.
Hey, man, good for them. Again, make your money. I hope, again, I love this about the show. And I love this about these sort of events.
Yeah.
Make your money. Get paid as a professional grappler. That's what pays your bills. That's what lets you keep training as you're making your money. Andy was a step ahead in the leg locks. Daniel was doing a great job consistently defending, going to running man, getting his knees clear. I love in this match in particular the overhead camera that Fight Pass Invitational uses for this match. Some of the defenses that Daniel has, overhead camera's perfect for, because you can see the way he opens Andy Murasaki's knee line. He gets his feet on the butt. He pushes away. You can see that he'll get his knee most of the way out and then force Murasaki to try to re-grab the knee so they can both tech out and come back to the feet or come up. Like, it was very, very good timing on the defenses, but he was consistently, and especially as the match went on, Andy was getting deeper and deeper, or he'd have a really deep bite that Daniel would sort of barely get out of. And then you could tell Andy's a good leg locker. I don't know Murasaki primarily as a leg locker.
No.
It seemed like this was a game plan thing where he knew he had trained with Daniel before. Then it looked like a guy that knew where he was going to be stronger than the other guy in. It was like the famous match with Keenan and Kynan. Yeah. When Kynan was at ADCC in like 2017, and Keenan talked about, he goes, we trained together for the entire camp. Yeah. I never heel hooked him. I never went for his legs at all, because I knew in ADCC that would be the way I could do it. And it was like, ooh, that is a way to plan for that. This kind of seemed in that same vein of like, I trained with this guy for years. I know where he is strong. I know where I probably have a big edge. And Andy went right into it the entire time.
And Sattler's previous matches for Fight Pass Invitational and Who's Number One were all like kind of standing, more wrestling-based matches. So maybe Andy was like, fuck that. I don't want to stand for 10 minutes. I'm going to go into
it was tactically the right decision to make. Again, he makes this transition. He continues to wrap Daniel up. Daniel goes to running man out of this, and then he's unable to get the knee line free, so Murasaki can pull it over, go up for top, lift back for the heel hook, and spin it across and get it. It's a sort of a textbook, not inverted backside 50-50 heel hook. It's just like it's from that knee bar position, from backside 50-50, where instead of basically popping the knee bar front, you still have the torque on the knee, and so you can go and do an overhead like across the chest heel hook.
Which is funny because Polish Mateus, his instructional goes over something very similar to this, teaching at Atos.
That's right. Funny. It's a great sequence. I mean, Murasaki's still there. Sattler's now. I think he's with Alliance now.
Yes.
Okay.
Still San Diego, but
it is
another crew.
The post fight here was weird for Murasaki because he talked about he was like really upset. He was just upset that he had to pop Daniel's leg, and he was like, we kind of like we live together, we train together. I don't know why he didn't tap early. And again, it's not like Daniel eats it for seconds. Like it's about a second and a half that he kind of goes, and it looks like he's trying to get. He's not just eating
and
it.
He's talking about
that
that one submission at the end, right? Not like throughout the match.
Yeah. He's talking about the one he finished him with.
He didn't pull like a Mikey where Mikey like literally broke everything.
Versus Gantamer and 1FC. Yeah. No, it was just an odd. It was a very odd. Even Murasaki kind of seemed like a little. Like, not almost confused is the right way. Like, I don't really, like, we're just competitors. We're competing. Of course, we both took the match. We both get a good big matchup here. We're going to take it. He just seemed kind of, like, at odds of, like, I don't really know why he made me hurt him. Yeah. Because, like, we have this history together, and it didn't even seem like there was a level of animosity on Murasaki's side. Yeah. So the dynamics of the match were a bit odd. But, again, if these guys want it and Daniel wants it for another reason and like wanted it as like seemingly almost looked like a grudge match for some reason.
Did they go against each? This is so.
I don't know of them going against each other before.
Submission.
Yeah.
I want to. somebody.
Daniel Sattler had that flying armbar off the pit wall. Pit submission.
But there was another one. And I'm.
Do you think it's a rematch from pit submission?
I think.
I don't think Murasaki's done pit submission, but I could be wrong about that.
Give me a second.
Okay. I'll stall for time while you
move
look
on
that up.
and we can come back.
Moving on to the next match, we have Kasia Amora defeating Sarah Galvao in overtime on points. The big takeaway from this match was Kasia Amora, if you don't know her story, blue to black in like a year. She wins worlds at gi, the no-gi, which you can do. We've talked about it before. Amazing performance. A black belt under Bruno Bastos now, moving into the adult black belt female ranks very quickly and looking very, very good. Sarah Galvao, Andre Galvao, and Angelica Galvao's daughter. Brown belt.
I was wrong. It was Nagai.
Okay, Jackson Nagai.
Murasaki I know more as a gi player. Kind of like Nagai I know more as a gi player.
Yep.
And I thought somebody did a a newer gi competitor did a no-gi match at Pit Submission versus Daniel Sadler.
Okay.
And for a second, I was like, oh, shit, did we miss?
Was it something? Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was Nagai.
Okay. So Kasia Mora and Sarah Galvao, two up-and-coming women. Kasia Mora, a year older. Galvao's 18. Mora's 19. Mora's a new black belt. Sarah's a new brown belt. Or black belt now. Brown belt still.
Brown belt. I don't think she's old.
She's 18 still. Yeah. She's not 19. Kasia Mora looked faster here. She looked like she had better wrestling. Sarah Galvao, and that's sort of Sarah Galvao's game. She seems to like to kind of bully people down. Heavy pressure pass, very slow, methodical.
But Kasia Mora was under into the legs, trying like the foot sweeps, the trips, the
better takedowns.
Yeah.
She just my biggest takeaway in this match was Kasia Mora seemed to be faster and have better wrestling than Sarah Galvao. Yeah. She put Sarah Galvao on the back foot early in the match, and then just continued to work her wrestling. The biggest moment in this match was in the overtime, where Kasia Mora beats Sarah Galvao with an underhook. She gets to her. She starts to run her out. She gets. I'm thinking of Alex Enriquez actually. I'm mixing these two matches up.
This was just a points win. Like I think Sarah I think Kasia takes her down, and then I think Sarah gets a sweep, and then I think
Kasia takes her down again.
Yeah,
I think is what this was, but it was the wrestling was the big factor here, and I was
more surprised this was a more wrestling based match than I thought was going to happen.
I was surprised that Galvao was sort of as slow footed as she was in this match. It seemed like she was unable to get to slow Kasia Mora down. And because that's, I think, where we've seen Galvao's game work best is when she can kind of impose. And, very much like her dad's game, impose, get in you, get the initiative, and put pressure and weight on you and, slow you down, especially later career Galvao. Kasia Mora just didn't let her do that and just out-wrestled her. And had Sarah, pulling back and trying to get up and trying to get underneath to try to get in front again and couldn't. So, incredible win for Kasia Mora. Sarah Galvao, again, still brown belt, has more to develop here. This is absolutely not the last time we are going to see both these women go against each other. But again, I'm consistently impressed by Kasia Mora. I hope she continues to develop at the speed that she is. And again, I hope we see more from Sarah. I know we're going to see more from Sarah Galvao. I just want to see more depth of her game when she's put on the back feet, and I would love to see more speed in the wrestling. Yeah, because it seems like if you're a good enough competent wrestler, this might be an avenue that you would be able to trouble Galvao in, especially as Galvao moves into the black belt ranks. Yeah, it's a tale as old as time. The women moving into the black belt ranks, you go from you're smashing everyone, and suddenly you have a feeling out period at black belt where suddenly cool. She's been a black belt for 10 years now. Enjoy this veteran at this level that you now can no longer just impose. You have to really have a diversity of game that is beyond your years. It will be interesting to watch Sarah Galvao develop that. As Kasia Mora, again, has also had some hiccups going into black belt. It's a really cool benchmarking match. I'm really happy it got made, and it was honestly a lot of fun. I want to see these women on every card because these are going to be the futures of your division, and I want to see them now. Any other thoughts?
Nope.
Next match, we had, honestly, a weirdly low on the card match. Yeah. Which I thought was odd. It was the third or fourth match on the main card. Helena Crevar submits Maggie Grandotti with a calf slicer. Beautiful series here. Crevar talks about it in the post-fight interview that she's been looking for more. She's happy to be able to use it. Basically, she goes backside 50-50. Grandotti goes to running man. Crevar gets a hip. Puts Grandotti down. Grandotti's never able to build a base up enough to do the running man escape that she wants to do and sort of will need to do out of this calf slicer because that is the only thing you can do out of the calf slicer essentially unless you can get out enough and spin through. Yeah. But Crevar is too high up on her hip and then too high up on the leg to be able to do the spin through defense. So the only defense that you're left is the running man, and Crevar is diligent with grabbing Grandotti's hip the entire time, puts Grandotti down, gets essentially the rear naked choke position from this. Is exactly what Charles Oliveira did. I think they even bring it up on commentary. Yeah. Charles Oliveira did this years ago in the UFC versus It wasn't Nick Lentz because he fought Nick Lentz 3 times. It was not Diego Brand. It might have been Diego Brandao. I don't know. Early career Charles
We'll find out after this comes out.
And somebody will text me it.
Somebody. You know exactly who's going to text you.
Yeah, I know exactly who's going to text me. 2 guys. It was really impressive. Again, watch the sequence. It's on Reddit. It's on everywhere. It's a really interesting sequence, and it looks like a very drilled sequence from Crevar because you're only going to thread your leg here coming out of backside 50-50 if you want to chase the back with the calf slicer. Yeah. It was very much this is exactly what you're looking for. The way that you manage the shin angle on this is only going to be something you're doing if you're fighting calf slicer.
Well, and it keeps them like in with you, because if not, they turn and they get out and they can make that distance. And the times that we've seen Helena have problems recently has been that she hasn't been able to either close the distance or maintain the distance with the person that she's going against.
This is the development that I think we were wanting and hoping that we were going to continue to see. Hey, Crevar is having a specific range problem. If she's able to get you down and low enough into the guard, if you're going to pass from the feet, like we saw with Nia Blackman and a couple, like 2 or 3 other matches in that past couple of months, this seems like a response to that, where it's like, cool, I can get underneath you. I can get to backside 50-50. You're not going to be able to get down. Now I thread this leg over. You're forced to spin one direction. It either puts you down or it puts me in the calf slicer, and now you're stuck in this, what Danaher loves is those systems. You're stuck in this system from backside 50-50. Now you're stuck in the calf slicer. This is going to be really hard for a lot of the women in her division to play around. It's a really strong sequence, especially when it's an intentional sequence like this. A lot of people will get here accidentally. Yeah. To have it be an intentional drilled sequence that Crevar is using, specifically in the range that we've seen her have some problems in, again, gives me a lot of hope that we're going to continue to see these big developments from Crevar. This is a nightmare for her division. Yeah. Her division sees this and goes, well, that sucks, because the one range that we had kind of given her trouble in now, she now has this new answer for. And now there's going to be we're going to have to fight her in that top range above her where she can start to talk you over and do other things and come into our legs more easily. Really, really interesting development here from Crevar's game. I hope that we continue to see more of it. And I really think we will. I'm very curious the Crevar that we will get come closer to the Polaris Squads event, especially as the team captain there. Yeah. Again, 18-year-old team captain. That's crazy. That shows you just how good Crevar is. And again, Gradati, we've said it for a year now.
In all honesty, no offense, but what does the team captain actually do?
They have 2 or 3 roles. They do have 2 or 3 roles.
Because the last Polaris event, the one guy was team captain. I forget who it was. And they said the reason why he was team captain was the team captain had to say something, and he was the only one that wanted to say something. No one else wanted to talk in front of the people. That was the only real job that person had, and that's why he had that job.
Again,
saying,
look out for it.
It's not like she's the one that's you will go against her, and she will, it's
the mastermind. We got John for that. Yeah. He's going to do that. So again, really impressive. Again, Gradati's very much the gatekeeper to the elite for this division. We knew that Crevar was elite. Again, you don't get silver at ADCC without being elite, winning trials. But it is nice to see her be able to do a new sequence that she has worked on someone of the level of Gradati. Yeah. Because again, that's something that means that it is probably something she can probably replicate as she continues to fight more elite women. Yeah. So super cool win. Should not have been this low on the card. Crevar deserves to be much higher on the card given her credentials. And again, I think she's going to be a real superstar here in a couple of years. She kind of already is, but I want to see her higher on the card. She's a silver medalist in the DCC. Put her up there. Let's see. Next one. We have Achilles Rocha defeating Nathan Haddad via decision. This could have gone either way. I have no problem with it going for Rocha. It was a very close match. It was the match that I was hoping that we were going to see from these two guys. Yeah. It was a good performance from Rocha, and it was a good performance from Haddad. We had talked about on the preview of this, that if either guy they're both known to have kind of up and down performances, and we were hoping that we got a performance where both of them were on. this looked like that performance. Achilles wins it early, Haddad wins it late.
I think Achilles has up and down performances. I think Haddad, we just haven't seen a lot of. We've seen him kind of progress better. So
that's a good point.
We've seen him at the beginning kind of not do as well, and now we see him doing better. Where Achilles, we see him doing really, really good, and then horrible, and then really, really good, and then and that's he's young. You're young and you haven't been competing for a long time. So there's
you've been competing for a long time, but not against like high level black belts for that long.
Exactly.
Which is weird for Achilles, but he's been sporadic in those matches. This is a great performance. Again, it was Achilles early, very clearly Achilles early, winning the wrestling sequences, winning a lot of the sequences, getting to the back. And then it was Haddad late. Yeah. Really deep armbar, good show. This was a really fun match, and I'm happy that I hope that we continue to see good performances like this from both guys because the sky's the limit if both guys can continue to perform like this.
Yes.
I was very happy with it. Any other thoughts?
Nope.
Next one, we had Alex Enriquez submitting Julia Alves rear naked choke in overtime. Beats her in the wrestling.
Yeah, in the regulation, yes, that was the word I was looking for.
I got there.
In the regulation, Julia was kind of giving it to her.
Yeah, it was
she was definitely
in the driver's seat for a big piece of it. The guard, really playing heavy off her back, forcing Alex into bad spots, putting her in triangles.
I mean, I even think in the very end, wasn't Alex in like a fully locked triangle at the end?
Well, it was like a fully teepee triangle. It wasn't like across and down, but it was. Enriquez had to really, really work to get out of like the last triangle towards the end of regulation. It was like, okay, Julie is really figuring out the timing. Yeah. She's going for the arms. She's going for the triangles. Alex is really struggling. Not really struggling. She's struggling to figure out the guard and how she wants to address Julia Alves' guard because Alves is just continually putting up good submission offense from the guard. And then we move to the overtime, and Alex is like, I'm going to wrestle. Yeah. Hits a beautiful, like, kind of half duck on Julia Alves. Julia Alves counters. She overextends her arm. Alex Enriquez gets behind with a body lock, and then they go out of bounds. Yeah. And I was like, okay, how are we going to reset this? And they reset standing, and they static start. And Alex Enriquez goes,
Well, this Hodo, it was Achilles Rocha and Nathan Haddad, where they started arguing with
and Shaolin just goes,
Shaolin's like, I don't care, and stands him up. And I was like, this is some random. I mean, you're a ref, so you do what you want, but I was like, damn, the ref's just doing what he wanted. Like,
but I kind of appreciate when I do like when a ref
but there was a couple positions where they definitely tried to restart, and one dude was way deeper than he started in.
That's kind of the problem with restarts. That's why ADCC doesn't do restarts, because it's like, hey man, we're not, because it's not going to be what it was. We'll go as far as it goes. But
there was definitely a couple times where like Shaolin could have stopped the action, and it would it would have been easier. It would have been easier to recreate. But anyway, we go into this match and we have a situation like that occur.
One piece for the restarts, I do kind of appreciate sometimes where there's a couple of ways you ref a bunch. You ref sometimes. Yeah. There's a couple of ways that you can do a restart. And usually what I do for a restart is I put him back to a position as close as I can make. Yeah. And then I go, you good with this? You good with this? I basically ask both guys to do it. Because like, even if you're not creating a position exactly what it was.
Yeah, I do the best.
If both guys are good with it, I don't really care. Hey man, your hand was here, hand was here.
Oh,
if you don't catch it as the athlete, and you're good with the restart, because we can sit here for 10 minutes and go, well, your hand was too far here, too far here.
Yeah, my thing is if you don't catch it, or if you give me a hard problem about it, I'm just gonna stand you up.
Yeah, it's like, hey man, we either agree to this position, but I also like neither guy really seemed like too dead set to the restart. No. And it was like, when you have one guy dead set on the restart, it's like, okay man, he earned the position. Yeah. You do have to make this restart right for him. But when you have this situation where it's like both guys are bitching about a reset and they're both willing to just restart it, I appreciate when the ref goes, we don't care about this. Okay, whatever, just restart it. Yeah. And you get the match in action moving, especially on a super fight card where it's like, dude, I do not want to watch them bitch about this for 10 minutes. Figure it out, guys.
Well, the Craig Jones situation. Craig Jones, and I forget who it was.
What was that?
It was a Polaris card, maybe.
Something. Yeah, they're just like, they're bitching about positionment. It's like, figure it out, guys. Yeah. So I do appreciate when the ref steps in and goes, you don't care, just restart. Yeah. Like, I like that. I also appreciate when the athletes are willing to go, like, we don't really have anything going. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to bitch about it for the sake of just bitching about it. Go for it. This restart for Alex Enriquez versus Julia Alves. Reasonable restart. They start with body lock. It was kind of moving, but it was pretty static in what it was because they were both at the edge. They both kind of stopped. You restart. Julia Alves stands there for a second. Alex Enriquez goes, well, it's my turn to move, and goes, beautiful hook jump. Yeah. The way that she jumps the hook is very good because a lot of people will get excited here and you jump a hook and you sag too hard to one side trying to knock them over. Yeah. Alex Enriquez goes, cool, I'm going to flat jump the hook, not try to knock you over, try to get up, but she doesn't do that thing where she jumps the hook and then tries to bounce up higher on the body. Yeah. She jumps the hook high with her hips above so that she can then use the other hip to throw over, and she's not trying to lift her body up higher on Julia Alves. This is the way that you jump the back. Yeah. This is how you should do it. If you're gonna look at how to jump the back, look at Alex Enriquez's hip position and foot position and shoulder position as she jumps the back. This is how to do it. This is how you should be doing it.
Not to do it in a rolling manner. Yes. Because the rolling manner you can do, but you have to, there's a whole different.
You got to beat him in a scramble. If you want to make a scramble out of it, awesome. Fine to do it. If you want to just jump the back, this is how to do it. And you can do it with two hooks too. But if you want to do it from the side with one hook first, Alex Enriquez textbook on exactly mechanically how you should be doing it. Yeah. Gets the hooks, and puts her down, puts Julia Alves down, rear naked choke. That's all it was. Yep. There was one piece talking about back takes where we have Cassiamora and Sarah Gavao, where I think it's this match with the foot, where you have Cassiamora on Sarah Gavao's back. That's where she scores the 4 points, by the way. And Sarah Gavao is defending Gangster with the choke with her face, and she's defending the feet. She's hands on the feet trying to get Cassiamora's feet off, and she has one hand on Cassiamora's leg that's across the center line of the body, and Cassiamora has the dexterity in her feet to windshield wiper her foot underneath the grip and get the body triangle when Sarah Gavao still has her hand on the foot. My wife caught it, and I was like, I watched it again. I was like, that's amazing. Yeah. It was just a really neat moment that is very uncommon to have someone have the dexterity to turn their foot and get the body triangle hook standing when someone's hand is on their foot to block it. Wild sequence. I have nothing else on Alex Enriquez versus Julia Alves. Do you?
Nope.
Next one, we have Carlos Enrique defeating Victor Hugo via armbar regulation. That's the match that kicked off the main card. It was good. Again, Carlos Enrique is extremely experienced. Victor Hugo, I think, is a
new brown
belt, I think we said from Fight Sports. So it's, again,
but very good up and coming brown belt.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah. Again, reasonable match to make, but Carlos Enrique, again, is in that Sapatero bracket coming up as well. It's a rough matchup to get, but again, it was still fun. That is it for Fight Pass Invitational. Any kind of thoughts on the whole card or the whole event?
No, it was fun.
Yeah.
There wasn't a shit ton of stalling calls.
And this event ran well. Like, I don't know what to tell guys in the back, but again, I'm with the UFC's push into jiu-jitsu more, like, I would love a card every month. Yeah. I would love a card every, 3 weeks. Like, this is a quality card. I would love them to do it like on a Friday or Saturday so I could have friends over to do it. Yeah. On a Thursday, it's like I'm not watching it till Saturday because we were just busy.
And maybe a little bit brighter colors, not have one be gray and one be black.
Yeah, I would love a little more. Weird, but they like the uniform thing, and I hate it. But again, if you're getting guys paid,
well, I want people to look like boards of all their supporters and bizarre outfits and colors, and I love that. I love the individuality of the sport. Like my NASCAR, I'm up. Why? Because that's what I mean. NASCAR.
Because that guy's getting paid. You know why? Because he has sponsors. Like I hate sponsors in the world. Yeah. I love seeing sponsors on athletes because for me it means that guy got paid. Yeah. And that is important in the sport when again so many guys compete for free or pay to compete. It's like it's a very grassroots, amateur to professional way. So I love ADCC when you see guys with the rash guard with all the sponsors on the back. Because it's like, hey, man, that guy got paid by those companies and is supporting his career through his sponsorships. Again, the UFC is compensating guys financially, but I do love the individuality because it shows me that guys are getting paid and compensated appropriately or to the best of that they can. Yeah. You know, I don't love the uniform policy, but I love guys getting paid. I would love to see a Fight Pass Invitational card once a month. These guys are The matchups are good. They make sense. They're interesting. The card runs. It's quick. It's to the point. Commentary is pretty good. Lighting is good. Refereeing is good.
I also liked how the B team crew was like right on camera all the time.
Yeah.
They were right. Like they had the seats that were literally on camera when people walked out. And Craig Jones looked like some kind of weird Eminem.
He looks like a 90s Eminem narco guy.
Yeah.
Again, I'm liking this Craig Jones retired promoter arc.
It's an interesting thing.
So one match happened on one championship this weekend as well. We had, I think, the debut of Diego Hayes. I don't know if it was the debut, first or second match on one championship.
I want to say it was
I think it was his debut.
Because I think they would have put him against Mikey if they were both there at the same time.
I think so, yeah.
And they haven't won against you. They didn't go against
Mikey's now at pass and Diego's now with one. Yeah. He finishes Satoyo Ishiguro via Kimura. It was a really nifty Kimura from a crucifix. He basically locks at the far side Kimura. Yeah. He then rolls like a leg,
Ishiguro. Almost like a leg scissor that they teach.
He goes from leg scissor, like a teepee leg scissor, and then he rolls Ishiguro behind him in that like power Kimura position that you're going to just like blow through the guy's arm.
Yeah.
Ishiguro taps, and that was the finishing sequence. Again, the finishing sequence is on Instagram. You can watch the whole match, but that was like the finish is pretty neat. So I want to talk about it. We're a little long in the show, so I wanted to finish that. Again, Diogo is one of the best guys in the world, if not the best guy in the world at 45, arguably.
Yeah.
Him and Pato, and he gets the better of Pato half the time.
Yep.
So, again, impressive. Happy to see him at one. Would love to see him get matched up really frequently because, again, I love watching him compete.
I think there's a lot of more smaller people in the one championship world.
They cycle. We've lost Mikey there, which sucks. And, like, he never really had a full division. Yeah, but they did give him pretty free Kleber Souza, Omar Smaldi. Like, they did give him consistent, good, interesting matchups. So I hope that they're going to do the same for Diogo. Yeah. Because, again, I love watching Diego compete. I love watching Mikey compete. I think the production on one is the best of any organization in the world. So, I'll take it. Any other closing thoughts for the week, Miranda?
I don't think so.
All right. Anything going on this week for you? Anything fun?
No, why do we have to change the time? Why do we have to do the time change here in the United States? It's not fun.
Just stick to daylight savings time, man. Just leave it at BST. Get rid of standard time.
Or if we lose an hour, why don't we lose it in the middle of the day? Why do we have to lose it in the middle of the night?
Then
so
you posted that and we laugh like, hey, man, let's lose it at 9 a.m. Monday morning.
Yeah.
You know why? It's like, hey, man, skip all those meetings. We start Monday morning. Monday goes from 9 to 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Bingo, bango. We all get the hour called a day.
Why we take it out of our sleep time?
39-hour week. Let's do it.
It's rough. Yeah, I'll even work an extra hour that day. I don't even care. I'd like to sleep.
Yeah. It would be nice to have it be midday. Hey, man, it's lunch.
Yeah.
It goes from 11 to 1. That's lunch. Yeah. You got a quick lunch today. So.
No food today.
Yeah. So,
but anyway,
that's all I got. So. It was fun to go out and coach this weekend. I had some really fun matches from the guys that I coach. So that was great. We have Copa of Virginia with Zach and I are doing coming up. Those are always fun cards to do.
That's fun.
And then we're working on the basement. I'm working on the podcast set.
Yeah.
And I'm getting close. I'm real excited for that to be on camera. I am aiming. I'm going to say it here. End of March. That's the goal. I'm saying it into the ether. I believe in myself, Miranda.
I guess you should say it because if you say it, then you're more.
Yeah, I thought January. We got drywall up now, so we're good. But that's all I got, Miranda. Anything else?
No, that's it.
As always on this show, I'm your host, Maine, joined by co-host
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Rewind. So that, whatever it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.